on July 2nd, 2020 for a Montara Water and Sanitary regularly scheduled meeting. And roll call, please.
Director Boyd? Director
Not
Boyd's
here.
not present? Okay. Director Decker?
Here.
Director Harvey?
Here.
Director Lohman?
Here.
Director Slater-Carter?
Present. President's statement. I'm going to make a note for the people who are watching early on this meeting. There is under new business a item on not LAFCO. We had one on, oh dear, how did I lose that? My eyes are getting fuzzy.
ERAF.
On ERAF, and it is, which item number is that?
That is the
No, number 4.
4.
Number
yes.
4 under new business. What's going on, and I'm hoping people will stay and watch this, is that with the economic troubles that the schools are having been closed, the state has decided to make modifications to the Education Reimbursement Augmentation Fund, which will come at the expense of special districts and cities. They're doing it in Sacramento. The folks who live here will know nothing about it. And they will, the ultimate result of it is your rates have to reimburse the money that the state takes away. Oh, sorry. It's been a ongoing game for years and years and years. But this is an important one. If you want transparency from Sacramento, this is the kind of thing that, this is the kind of action that should be at the front page of every paper. This affects your water, your sewer, your cities, your counties. And yes, it does go to help education, but ultimately it all comes out of the same pocket. That would be yours. So please pay attention and stay for and tune in to item 4. And if you can't or don't or won't, pay attention to it at the state level. Call your state senator and your state representative and ask them to vote no on it. Thank you. Moving on along to oral comments. Jim, you had an oral comment?
No.
Okay. I'm looking to see if anyone else has an oral comment. Rick does.
No, those were thumbs downs.
Oh, those were thumbs down, not just me, huh? Okay. Then seeing no oral comments, we will move on to public hearing, of which we have none. And now we are at the consent agenda, which has 11 items, minutes for the meetings of May 21st, June 4th, June 10th, and June 18th. That was a lot of reading, guys. Approve the financial statements for May 2020. Approve the warrants for June 1st, 2020. Would that be June 1st or July 1st, Clemens?
It should be July 1st. That's right.
Thank you. The SAM flow report for May 2020.
Didn't make it this time.
It's not here, okay.
Did not make it.
Monthly review of current investment portfolio, connection permit applications received, monthly public agency retirement service report for March 2020. Review and possible action concerning execution of deed of reconveyance in satisfaction and extinguishment of promissory note under the district's employee mortgage loan assistance program. Monthly water production report. And for those who read that, what it is it tells you how much water we use because we only produce water to meet needs. So it's not like we're producing water and put it in storage. That's what you're using. the rain report, and the monthly solar energy report. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
I second the motion.
All those in discussion, all those in favor?
I
Aye.
need a roll call vote on these. or what?
And we need a roll call vote.
Director Decker,
Aye.
Director Harvey,
Aye.
Director Loman,
Yes.
Director Slater Carter.
Yes. And so we're moving right along to, let me pick up my paper here. Wrong paper. To the old business, of which there is none, and new business. We'll start with number 1, review and possible action concerning refinancing 2012 general obligation bonds for savings to our homeowners.
Thank you, Catherine. Yeah, Alex and I have been looking at this for some time. I've been talking about the opportunity to refinance the 2012 general obligation bonds. And the title says for savings. I want to be clear, the savings are not to the district. There's cost associated to the district for this. The savings are going to be to the ratepayers ultimately. So we're thinking that there is a good chance that a refinance can be successful right now, can save some funds. And ultimately, before I hand this over to Alex so that he can go a little bit into the detail of what we're really looking for, what I would like the board to approve tonight is essentially the authorization to sign this engagement letter with Bartle Wells. It's a not to exceed of $18,000, but this should be much cheaper, and it should be actually also, we can roll this into the financing cost, of course. So yeah, that would be the suggested action for the board to authorize that we can engage with Bartle Wells and proceed with that. And we would, of course, come back at a subsequent meeting and report on this. Alex, maybe you can help tell us a little bit what you did and what you think what we should do.
Yeah, interest rates are extremely low right now. They've come down. They've been low for a while, but particularly early this year, January, February, into March, they came down and they were at extremely low levels. And a lot of refundings that maybe didn't make sense with higher interest rates all of a sudden were, so-called in the money. So you guys have your outstanding GO bonds, which, they were originally issued in 2003. In 2012, they were refunded at a rate of 2.4%, which was extremely low at the time. So it's not like there's been any opportunities for savings since, but interest rates now are even lower. What we would generally recommend in a case like this, you've got about $8 million or plus outstanding in these general obligation bonds. They go through August 1st, 2028. So at the current rates, they can be refunded for savings. It's not a ton of savings. That's because the current rate's only 2.4%. So typically in a case like this, what we'd recommend doing is, going out, and there's sort of two different ways of doing it. One is through something called a private placement or a bank loan, where there are certain banks and private lenders out there that are lent to public agencies and understand that they're very good credits, and, soliciting bids and, seeing what the best rate is. And the other option is doing to the municipal bond market, the general obligation bonds, just like you originally did. We did kind of our general approach for something like this would be, first, let's see what the bank rates are, and then compare that against what the bond rates are. And if it's close, or if the bank rates win, well, you're done. You go move forward with a private placement or a bank loan, and there's like all the legal documents, process of legal debt issuance that has to be adhered to. But if for some reason it looked like the bonds were, significantly better option, you'd instead change course and move forward with a bond sale. Now, the only risks are you know, when you do a bank loan, you pretty much can lock in the rate up front. But when you do a bond sale, you know, it takes time to go through the process. There's legal documents for everything, both sides. There's, you know, rating agency, there's, you know, going out to the bond market. So there's always the risk that the interest rates could change and go up a little, and, you know, change your savings calculations. So at this stage, we'd recommend, you know, trying to take advantage of the low interest rates by first, you know, getting some bank bids and seeing what those rates look like. And then you can make an informed decision whether it makes sense to go forward. I would say all the costs related to any kind of debt issuance can be funded from the proceeds of the issuance. Sometimes there's some costs that need to be funded up front a little bit, but ultimately, you know, all the costs would be funded out of the new debt proceeds. So ultimately, it shouldn't cost the district anything. It's just, you know, it just comes out of the potential savings. The only other thing I'll add is when we ran the numbers, you know, I ran them both ways. I'm kind of using estimates of current rates. And, you know, the savings was somewhere approaching, you know, $300,000 over the next 8 years. So that's about, you know, $35,000, $40,000 a year. So it's real savings. It's just not, you know, you're not going to get millions of dollars of savings just because you don't have millions of dollars of interest that you're paying on your outstanding debt. So, you know, I don't know when, you know, now seems to be a good time as any to take advantage of the stuff with interest rates being extremely low, with the Fed having injected so much money into, you know, buying the system. It's really driven interest rates to extremely low levels that, you know, there's not a lot of room for them to go lower. Although maybe they could go negative at some point, if people are wondering. But in this case, you'd be looking at an interest rate that's, you know, 1.25%, 1.5%, somewhere in that range, kind of an all-in interest rate, which is probably less than inflation. So it's maybe, for all practical purposes, a negative interest rate. So anyway, I will leave it there. Defer back to the board.
Question, Catherine? You're muted.
Thank you. Bring it back to the board. Any questions from the board?
I do.
All right, start, Rick.
Have we ever considered, because like a lot of the loans, all the burden is imposed on all the current members currently and all the local people. With the loans, have we considered pushing the loans out further into the future so future residents can pick up some of the costs, because they will be using all the infrastructure and everything we're building? Have we looked at rates for pushing the loans out a little further? It would, you know, lower the rate even more, or lower the dollars per month even more. And we wouldn't pay the loan off quite as fast, but future residents would be picking up some of the cost also.
Let me answer from the just the district's perspective. When we looked at this last in it was in 2015, I think, Alex, we refinanced.
Oh, 2012.
Well, it was already in 2012. It was the board's desire to not extend the life. It was actually the board's desire to ensure that the refi doesn't extend the life of the loan, and that there is an end in sight. So that's been so far the direction that we've been getting from the board.
And isn't it true that these loan costs then and improvement costs are calculated in the new connection costs for people who are building houses or for projects, big projects that are coming in? So they're paying a portion anyway. It's my understanding. So I think I may be wrong. My memory is getting really bad recently, but
Catherine,
it's
if I
Scott,
might,
please.
So, Rick, the average household for people who've been here for a while, the annual payment on the bond has been going down year over year. In 2012, it went down because we did the refi and we basically got cheaper money. But every year it's been going down because the assessed tax valuation of the community has gone up. And every time someone comes in and buys, and every time someone builds, they wind up paying proportionate to the valuation placed on their property. So what you see is that, like, if you're in the community and you're holding it steady and you're staying here, your portion will shrink over time because the assessed valuation fortunately being picked up to some degree by the newer people coming in and buying the more expensive homes or building the more expensive homes.
Any more questions from the board? I don't see any from the audience. Jim, Peter?
I think our approach with the rates was also one whereby we said we will have more flexibility increasing the rate once the GO bond has been paid off. That was a consideration in our rate proposal.
That's true. Hey, Jim? You're on mute.
Are we directing Bardo Wells then? The direction for Bardo Wells will be to look in any type of refunding of that's the best option.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
So do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion. Or I'll second the motion then.
Okay.
Okay, Peter made the motion, Jim made the second. They're both on the finance committee, so that's good news. Roll call vote, please.
Director Boyd,
Aye.
Director Decker,
Aye.
Director Harvey,
Aye.
Director Lohman,
First, I think it's incestuous that both approvers here are on the financial committee. So, yes.
and Director Slater-Carter.
Yes. Moving on to review and possible action concerning acceptance of sewer main extension at 1928 Sunshine Valley Road.
Okay, so just first to start, apparently this item, there was a mix-up with the links on the board packet, so you will not see this in the board packet. This was sent out to all participants in the meeting right now by email, so you have it in front of you by email. Anyone watching this by TV, please contact us to get access to the board item. And I'm also gonna try to share my screen and see if I find the right one. Do you guys see the board item up?
Not yet.
I see it.
It says I would share the screen.
Yes, I also see it.
Okay.
It starts in May 2017, Patrick Powers.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you, Catherine. Let me just start it. So we actually have a mainline extension that was completed last year. Originally, the whole project started in May 2017. And we've now received from our sewer engineer, from Pippin, a statement that essentially declares that the one-year warranty period has expired. And that allows us now to accept the main line and release the warranty bond for the owner. So the recommendation is to adopt a resolution approving and accepting the sewer main relocation and authorizing release of warranty bond. We have Pippin here for any questions. This was really a sewer mainline relocation versus a new mainline extension, called mainline extension. It was the existing portion that was rerouted. Okay, with that to the board, and again, Pippin is available for any questions.
Okay. Pippin, do you have any additional comments before the board asks you any questions?
Don't have any additional comments.
Okay. Questions from the board, and I can't see participants, so please put your hand up if you have a question.
None here.
Okay, I don't see any little blue hands. So do I have a motion?
So moved.
Make a motion to accept.
So it was a motion by Rick and a second by Jim.
Okay. The dog, some dog there made a third.
I'm guessing whose.
So let's have a roll call vote, please. And before I go on mute, I'm going to vote yes, and then I'm going to go on mute.
Your dogs can't vote either.
Director Boyd,
I'll give my proxy vote to the dog and vote aye or bark.
and the Director Decker,
Aye.
Director Harvey,
Aye.
Director Loman,
Yes.
Always the contrary.
I like
Motion-
regular
motion-
English terms.
Motion carries with a unanimous vote. Moving on to review and possible action concerning authorization to advertise for bids 2020 to 2021 sewer improvement project and spot repairs.
Thanks, Catherine. So we have a sewer improvement project in front of us that we're asking to adopt a resolution as authorizing essentially the advertisement for bids and also the filing of the notice of the exemption under CEQA. And that's all I'm going to say. I'm going to hand it now to Pippin because I know he's going to be so much more effective in describing what it is that we want to do. Pippin.
Thank you, Clemens. So every year we, actually, Clemens, I'm not sure if it really matters, but you could probably unshare your screen from the last item.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Yes, thank you.
So annually, I apologize, keep looking to the right because I have the agenda item up on my larger screen on the right here. Annually, we do a sewer improvement project every year, extended out for the life of the sanitary district sewers, and they're prioritized by several factors. Historically, we have some televising records. We also have annual cleaning reports and items from the SAM cleaning crew where they have problems or consistent hotspots or whatnot. And we also look at, because we have a number of individual basins, which we've talked at previous meetings in Montara about the different pump stations. We look at the different pump stations and try to watch their effect during rain. So if the pumping really increases a lot during rainy season, we try to work in those areas to reduce the rainwater that might be coming in. So this year, in addition to this project, we've also talked to the board in the recent past about a separate project. So when you look at the capital funding for this year, there's more than just this project included. There's the money set aside to work on the Cabrillo Highway trunk sewer from the district office up the highway towards, gradually over years towards the Canoff pump station or up near First Street or Second Street. And that'll take some years to complete that project, so incrementally. So this year, the the neighborhood sewers or the regular capital repair program, we're looking at somewhere between a $600,000 to $850,000 expenditure, depending on how the bid prices come in. We've seen really good bid prices, actually better than expected bid prices the last 2 months because of COVID. It's counterintuitive, but contractors are really trying to secure work. So if districts are a little bit more lenient on their construction schedule, they're locking in great prices. So we're hopeful that that will carry forward on this project. In case it doesn't, we've divided up the project to a piece that's alternate. So if it's too expensive, we can push that off a little bit and just get to the most critical work. And the areas in the project that we're working on this year, the plans are attached. You scroll through. Plan sheet 5 shows several of the areas darkened that we're planning on working. It's a small schematic, so the street names aren't all listed, but there's a particular first priority of this project is the sewer west of the El Amigo Grande restaurant. It's a flat pipe. It doesn't have a lot of slope on it. And it's been a cleaning problem for Sam for many years. And it's getting worse. So we're moving forward to try to correct that problem. And the second priority, I mentioned about pump stations and rain infiltration. The intersection of Date and Hart, and Cedar. It's kind of the bottom of the bowl in that neighborhood where the pump station exists. We've been working up there off and on for many capital cycles. And reducing rainwaters has been a success each time as groundwater soaks into the old pipes. The county did a storm drain project about 5 years ago, which actually relieved a lot of that water pressure during rains and reduced our risk to how fast we had to do the work. We could, it took a lot of the rainwater away, but the problems still exist there. So we're continuing. Last year we worked east of that pump station up near the horse ranch. And this year we want to work on the west side. And there's a few problem root areas around Wave and View de Mar. And if the budget allows, we've designed work around Stetson and Admiral. There's a part of the neighborhoods we haven't done work for a few years. Historically, that neighborhood has problems with the individual connections to the houses were never built as well as maybe they should have been, or as people tapped in over time, they didn't get exactly squared up and things settled, and it causes, problems for stoppages that Sam has to deal with. So those are our goals for the project this year, with that Stetson section being the alternate. So if the prices come in over our expected budget, we'll delay that work or possibly rebid it. And
what was the first item again? You said the first item was
the first work item
in front of a restaurant. Which restaurant is that?
Oh, it's the Virginia Street in Moss Beach, heading west towards the California pump station.
The Taqueria.
It's the Taqueria there. It's the sewer that goes down from the Taqueria west towards about halfway towards the pump station.
And I think we got to be specific that this is, you said it's flat. It's almost a little more than flat.
Yeah, there's some bellies in it, actually.
Yeah, there's some bellies in it. So I want to just be specific that this is not a problem that's coming from the restaurant that we're correcting. Yes. This is the problem in the line.
Yeah, the line has at least 2 bellies where over time we videoed it and it holds up. Basically, the whole pipe is full of water. So it's kind of like these siphons. So, the pipe doesn't flow and it collects, especially near the end where there's not a lot of flushing. The paper and whatnot sets in these sections. And so Sam has to come out every 3 months or something and
One of the hotspots, yeah. So, yeah.
There was recently an article in the paper about the Fitzgerald Marine Reserve being one of the more polluted beaches. Will this have any effect on that? And the subset of that is, do you think our sewer system has any influence on it? Because there's so much livestock upstream and other stuff. They weren't specific about what kind of pollution and who it was coming from.
Yes. Do you want to take that first, Clemens, or do you want me to answer?
Yeah, I can take that first. Catherine, I think there was actually, I'm not sure if this is in this report that you're mentioning or in this article, but there was some investigations done about the sources of the bacteria, and it didn't come back as being a problem that originates from sewer systems. The county actually, together with RCD, looked a little more in detail into this drainage area and into our sewer system there, SAM system. And again, it came back as not necessarily being the problem of the sewer agency. What was found was that the laterals seem to be, if there is a problem with pipes, then it seems to be more attending with the laterals, and that's something that the district has only limited control over. Laterals are privately owned. They are on private property. They're the homeowner's responsibility, and they're probably about 50% of the entire collection system. So you have a lot of small little stubs going to main lines that collect the sewage, and all of these small little stubs are essentially part of that collection system and make out quite a bit of pipe. So I think what was good is that we actually, with these sewer improvements, we changed our policy last year. We are actually now replacing the entire lateral at district cost. When we replace a main line, we find it's more cost effective than trying to get actually a homeowner to comply with this. So we are replacing homeowner sewer laterals if they are failed, but if there is a mainline project like the ones that we're talking about right now, we are now replacing the pipe all the way up. And so I think overall this project will have a beneficial impact. I don't think it's going to clean up the creek. It's a different problem, the bacteria contamination in the creek.
In fact, Clemens, Greg Diegas sent us a very extensive report that dates back to 2012 that lists in detail the various factors that go into polluting the waters, and SAM is part of the study. So if people are interested, they can read that study.
I'd note that studies like that they often start out with really strong conclusions that on further investigation end to be a little premature. And SAM and the coastside agencies have done considerable work, especially in conjunction with biologists and RCD and others. And there's been some really good work, including DNA analysis of some of the contamination, say, for example, in the harbor. And what they found was that the contamination there was largely a bovine variant.
Exactly.
Which could be cows, it could be deer, could be a variety of things. It's not humans. And so I took a look through that report and saw how they were approaching things, and or when they were complaining, for example, that MWSD is just not paying attention to all the laterals, which is obviously false. we've been paying attention to laterals for many years. And as Clemens mentioned, we've taken proactive stance on tackling some of that. So it's, even as lengthy as that report is, it treats the issue, it's a little shallow in its treatment. So I would urge people to take a report like that with a grain of salt and dig into it a little bit if you think it's got a conclusion that says the agency is unaware or not trying. I appreciate the questions Catherine asked, because digging deeper, you can see that our staff are understand quite a bit about what's going on, and reports like that like to make sweeping, simplistic conclusions. But it's the mention of SAM, for example, it talked about spills. Well, we know there's spills. We have very aggressive programs to address the sources of those spills, like, for example, including this kind of flat line with bad slope that's been a big cleaning problem, and it's part of our plan for this year is to go through that issue. Things like that sometimes spill, but it's not because we're not on the job. And I was a little troubled by it, I guess is what I'm really saying.
Well, Scott, one of the things I've noticed in reports like that is they tend to use stereotypic conclusions and not go into looking at the real data and what really is going on. There was a problem in Pillar Point for years that they were blaming on Granada Sanitary District, and it had nothing to do with Granada. It had everything to do with raccoons eating garbage and living in drain lines, not drain lines, storm lines.
I was going to bring that up.
Yeah, it's so these stereotypic kinds of conclusions, especially as you say, they start out with a wild accusatory tone and never get any better. And that one actually is 8 years old. So this district, as Pippin said, we make an effort to spend money on our lines every year. And the other thing that report didn't look at, it blamed laterals, but it didn't talk about who owns half the lateral. And we have tried, and other agencies have tried to have a lateral video upon the sale or improvement expansion of a house, and the real estate agency works very hard against having that kind of regulation. So there's a whole lot of different things in there but thank you, Scott, for bringing that up too. Do we have any more questions from the board? I can see everyone. I see Jim's mic is off, Rick's mic is off. Peter is not saying anything.
No.
And Scott is looking around. So let's have a motion to approve this.
I move that we adopt a resolution approving contract documents and authorizing advertising bids for 2020-2021 sewer improvement project and spot repairs, and authorize filing notice of exemption under the California Environmental Quality Act.
Second?
I second the motion.
Peter seconded the motion. Roll call vote, please.
Director Boyd?
Aye.
Director Decker?
Yes.
Director Harvey?
Aye.
Director Lohman?
We saw your lips move.
Rick, you got to turn your mic on.
I don't have dogs, but I got chickens in the garage, so I'm trying to keep an alarm clock here. Yes.
And so you said yes?
Director Slater Carter?
Yes. Motion carries unanimously, and we're moving on to what I commented on at the beginning, receive information about education reimbursement augmentation fund concerns.
Thanks, Catherine. And yeah, you talked a little bit about this. I'm just going to repeat it here. We are receiving property taxes. This district, around $400,000 in property taxes each year that are split between the water and sewer side, so $200,000. That is roughly 10% of our budgets on the water and sewer side. That is financed through the property taxes. That looks very different for other special districts. The majority of special districts receive a lot more property tax revenue. We have, that's one of the reasons why our rates are, our rate structures and rates are different than for other agencies. So a portion of the property taxes that we're supposed to get each year is actually withheld by the state in what is called the Education Reimbursement Augmentation Fund, ERAF. It's set aside, it's supposed to gain money, and that is actually then going to the benefit of schools in California. And after some time, that money that was invested is then returned to the districts. And how this all works is rather complicated and convoluted, and you need actually, essentially, this is overseen by the Legislative Analyst Office of the state of California, and the counties actually take care of the process itself, withholding, transferring it to ERAF, and so on. San Mateo County informed us that they were approached by the state that there seems to be, the state seems to have a different opinion on how the withholdings are calculated. So there are some counties in California that are now under scrutiny by the Legislative Analyst's Office. And there is apparently even some legislation that is introduced to clarify this and potentially reduce further the amount of property taxes that special districts in California get for the benefit of California schools. This goes so far as that past year's calculations are included in this process, and this could actually lead to some sort of a clawback that agencies have to return funds. So this is, of course, very concerning, because this is an exchange of funds from one public agency to the other public agency. And quite frankly, you know, I have never understood the sense of that. I don't think there is much sense in that. The money that is being paid by taxpayers is supposed to benefit the public. Now playing, you know, different agencies or like here, the schools versus special districts. I don't understand where this makes sense in California. But particularly now looking at clawbacks for these investments, I'm hoping that we can stop all this madness. And we've been working with the county. They've been putting calls on that on a regular basis to inform the special districts. And we've also worked with the California Special District Association in opposing what's happening here. And we participated in a CSTA letter, for example. So again, this is only for board information. I hope, you know, every year we say, be careful, we cannot budget for ERAF. We don't know how much money we get. This can even increase the problem further. So we're hoping that we can come back and report in the future that we were successful in stopping this. And we will keep the board informed, of course. Thank you.
Comments from the board?
Just real quick, is there an actual bill number or anything we can write Jerry Hill and all the appropriate people about?
I can, yes. the contexts where the letters need to go, I can get to you, Rick.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I would like to have it. I would like to have it
letter in
too.
the packet references the Education Omnibus Trailer Bill number 161.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's and it also references the senator and assembly member that are supporting that.
Right.
So it has that information. If there is any more information, if there should be any more information in the documents that I have, I'll let you know, Rick. I also think it's a good idea to just, send a letter to our local representatives to alert them. I'm certain they will either ask some questions or forward the letters, or have some interest in this as well.
Does it make sense for our district to write a letter?
Well,
We signed the letter from CSDA. I think it would be useful. Certainly a letter from us would be good. One of the things I think the public needs to be really aware of is we can raise rates. Fire districts are going, and districts that are not rate-based districts actually are at risk for the services, for being able to provide their services, because I did the calculations for Coastside Fire Protection District, and I think 95, 96% of their budget comes from property taxes. So it could be a big hit to them, and they have a lot of expenses. It's a huge budget for the Coastside Fire Protection District. If you look at the letter from CSDA, there are quite a few fire district chiefs who have signed on to it. So I would suggest that we put the information as something at the top of our website so that people can go to it to find out who to write to, the bill number, and just some sample comments. It's not that we don't value the schools, but this is one of the effects of COVID that I think people wouldn't have expected. Do we have any more comments? Seeing none, let's move on to number 5. Review and possible action concerning professional services agreement with Strategic Communications Outreach Consultant.
Yeah, thanks, Catherine. Our contract with Allison ran out, and we've been thinking about a new contract. We would like to continue the work with her. And so we prepared a similar contract to what we've seen in the past fiscal year. We're talking about $40,000 impact. That's 20,000 water, 20,000 sewer. Yeah, with that, the recommendation is to authorize the general manager to execute the contract for this actually fiscal year. Yeah, and Allison, of course, is attending and can answer any questions as well. Thank you.
Okay, discussion? Seeing no hands.
I move to authorize the general manager to execute the 2021 contract with Castama Strategic Consulting beginning July 1st, 2020.
I second.
Can we make a further comment?
Let's say the second was by Peter, and now Jim can comment.
I'm for the motion, but I'd like to see. I'd like to see Allison. We have some challenges here. I think that one of the challenges we have is the consolidation issue. So I'd like to see. We need to focus on a proactive approach to that particular issue, because that ties in directly to the SAM issues and the lawsuit. So I think I would suggest that we focus our next focus be on that particular issue.
Yeah, and I started a draft of a fact sheet on that, so we have that in hand. I don't know that that's circulated yet, but I definitely think that, Clemens and I will continue to talk about when we can schedule some stuff. Obviously, this will enable us to continue the newsletters, but I think we talked briefly, but we'll need to continue talking about what additional things do we do sort of as we come to September, October. We know that property tax bills are going to be coming, so we'll want to do a little bit of proactivity there, try to see if we can do an open house or some kind of thing that we couldn't achieve in March. We might look at doing some other outreach. So definitely, I've heard consolidation, and I know Clemens and I have started work on a fact sheet at least to have in hand. So we'll continue looking at that as we look at what's coming in the next few months.
I saw that fact sheet about the consolidation, but what I would prefer to have happen is that we send comment directly to the Half Moon Bay Review, because about 2 or 3 weeks ago, there was a very nasty article about the consolidation, and I think we should have at least a counter to that.
Okay. Okay, I can follow up with Clemens on that and see what we can do.
Yeah,
I agree.
It sounds to me like somebody's practicing violin somewhere. I was hearing some background noise. In any event, that's a good idea, and I'm certain Clemens would be the appropriate person to put that together and sign it.
Yes, thanks. We can work on that. Absolutely. Yep.
I'd love to help out on that. I'll dig up all my old articles.
We definitely, we take your help. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Essentially, nothing has changed. In all the years they've been talking about it, it hasn't gotten to be a better idea.
Yeah.
And it doesn't save any appreciable money.
Right. In fact, if anyone does have some old materials that you've used, I'd really appreciate if they can be sent my way, because then I can just look through them, make sure I'm not missing any pieces, and that'll help.
Yeah. Again, consolidation ties in and encompasses all our other issues. So I think we need to focus on getting articles to the Half Moon Bay or comments to the whole coast side, because that's the encompassing issue right now.
Great.
Good. Thank you. We need a motion. Oh, keep going, Scott.
Just direction of staff. I think I'll just take the opportunity to say that a couple of things. One, there's always talk about efficiencies of scale, and there's a lot of hand waving and using phrases that sound smart. But in all the years of dealing with people who have thrown out those old bromides and use them as a way to challenge and say, why aren't you consolidating? Have yet to have anyone put numbers to it to show us where there would be anything significant in any way on purchasing supplies, equipment, purchasing services, staffing. We run really lean. We couldn't run leaner to merge with someone else. We have people who are multifaceted and handle jobs that other larger agencies would take 2 or 3 or 4 people to do. And we have people living right here in the community. They're members of our community. They work here. They're available for emergency response 24/7 during the worst weather. And they show up because they care about the community and they're serious about their jobs. So there's just a lot of talk, but the old Wendy's commercial, where's the beef? In the claims sound so smart until you just say, show me a number, show me any number. I've had numerous people talk about how wasteful we are, and I'm like, well, sit down with me. We'll look through the budget. And I've had no people take me up on that. The only person that I know who's really done that seriously is Greg. And Greg has done a whole lot of research. But, in terms of sitting down with me and going over numbers, the only people who've gone over the numbers are people I've made sit down with me, and they don't want to sit down with me anymore. But, well, we had coffee, so that was nice. But
oh, geez, Scott.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, it's used as an attack weapon by people who want to see us fail so they can take over. And I don't think there's a way to really put that in a reply to the review, but it's a weapon of war. And I'm with Jim. We need to speak into it clearly. We need to put facts behind it. And we need to show people that people in their own community understand and care about their feelings about all this, and that we're open and willing to help them take a good look if they want to see, is this agency worth their trust? And of course, we believe it is, but we've got to remain open to people asking the questions. So that's fine. That's good. But allowing people who have an interest in our water, have an interest in taking the community of the Hermit Kingdom of Montara and Moss Beach and silencing our voice in our own local affairs, we can't stand idly by and take that. So, Jim, thank you for raising that issue.
I will add that in talking to people, first of all, it's been a major election item for as long as I have been running. And actually before that, it was a major item because Coastside County Water District and the county had a great scam, and you can talk to Gary Warhoftig about this, to take over our failed water system from Cal-Am. That said, when we were taking it over, we were told we could never succeed. Our community has the attitude that we paid for it. It's ours. Yep. And now we have more adequate water than most of the communities on the peninsula. And at one point in time, Coastside County Water District wanted to get an emergency connection, a hardline connection to Montara so they could give us water if we needed it. We managed to negotiate an agreement where we would bring in portable pipe, if they ever needed water. But our studies and our water supply report and so on show that we're doing quite well. Thank you very much. There is still an underlying mission to connect because our rate base is seen as being profitable, particularly if you jack the prices up to cover the cost of Hetch Hetchy water. Because we don't pay for water, we pay to pump it and distribute it. We don't pay for the commodity. So, but most people have said, oh, we don't like our rates being raised, and you heard people talking about this infrastructure payment. But most people are very proud. This district was created as a sanitary district by the people who live here, and it has continued as a water and sanitary district, and it is truly owned by the community. And the people who have been here a long time really understand that. People who are relatively new here keep thinking Hetch Hetchy is a wonderful thing because it has a great PR firm. We just have great service and great water. Any more comments?
Well, now we have a great PR firm too. So let's see how that goes.
We do. That's right. Service and possible action concerning district election on November 3rd, 2020. This is item.
Did we vote on that?
Sorry to interrupt, Madam President, but I believe we still need a vote.
We need to vote.
We need a vote. I wasn't sure.
Contract.
Okay, let's have a motion.
Now.
Sorry.
Let's have a motion, a second, and a roll call vote.
Exactly.
All right. Jim, did you make the motion?
Sure, I'll make the motion. Thank you.
I heard that. And Rick, you've made the second?
Sure.
Good. And roll call vote, please, Tracy.
Director Boyd,
Aye.
Director Decker,
Yes.
Director Harvey,
Aye.
Director Loman,
Yes.
Director Slater Carter.
Yes. Motion carries. Unanimous vote. Now we're back to the review and possible action concerning the district election of November 3rd.
Thanks, Catherine. So we got the usual correspondence from the Chief Elections Officer. There will be elections held for the district with the presidential elections. I think they're called general elections on November 3, 2020. The candidate filing period will be open on July 13th and close on August 7th. We've already submitted the information as every year. Since a long time, we've always submitted the same information about the Montara Water and Sanitary District election procedure, which is that the candidate statement is limited to 200 words. The candidate is responsible for the cost of the statement. This year, what's a bit different is that the county is actually asking to essentially not renew the agreement, but all the other information in an accompanying resolution as well. So we're asked to adopt a resolution of the Montara Water and Sanitary District calling for an election to be held on November 3rd, 2020 for the election of 3 members of the governing board. I think that's Scott Catherine, and then Peter's seat is up for election as well. You were appointed this year, so it's going to be up for election. So the recommendation is to adopt the resolution. Thank you.
We include mandatory, or we already have mandatory mail-in ballots, don't we?
Yes.
Just saying.
Yes, although Len Erickson from the MCC was looking for at least a balloting station for Montara Moss Beach. The school doesn't, with this COVID, doesn't want people coming in and using that even outside. So I had suggested maybe our parking lot, but I don't think that was well received. And because of the access issue for it. And so they've been looking for other possibilities, and we'll just have to keep you posted.
Fine.
Okay, do we
I
have?
move adoption
you, Scott.
of the resolution next in order. Resolution of the Montara Water and Sanitary District calling for an election to be held on November 3rd, 2020 for the election of 3 members of the governing board.
Thank you.
I
Do we
second
have
the
a
motion.
second? Second by Jim. Discussion. Hearing none. Roll call vote, please, Tracy.
Okay. Director Boyd,
Aye.
Director Decker,
Aye.
Director Harvey,
Aye.
Director Loman,
Yes.
Director Slater Carter.
Yes. Motion carries unanimously. Moving on to review and possible action concerning local agency formation commission special district member.
Yeah, thank you. So we're looking to adopt a resolution authorizing the nomination of Rick Loman as special district representative to San Mateo County, LAFCO. And I actually think, Rick, you're probably the best one to tell us about this seat, because you're actually active right now with LAFCO.
Sure, I can tell you quick. The process is LAFCO is made up of 7 members, 2 from the cities, 2 from the county, 2 from special districts, And then LAFCO itself appoints a public member. So there's 7 active members. The process for the special districts is we have a chapter of the roughly 23 special districts here in the county. They will meet, I'm not sure what the date is, in the future. And you actually have to be present to vote. So that's going to be interesting. This is probably going to be the first virtual voting of this. Everybody who wants to serve on LAFCO, as I am now, we have 2 members and an alternate. You have to receive a recommendation from your district. And then we go out and lobby and talk to everybody. And then later on this year, there will actually be a physical vote of who's going to represent the special district. I've been on for about 3 or 4 years. I'm like the only co-side rep, so that's why I like to keep going. And I can sort of stay in touch with some of the actions that might affect us very directly here on the coast. So I would appreciate everybody's support, and I'd be happy to serve if nominated.
I think I'd like to comment that Rick has done a great job over the years. I've been to LAFCO meetings and I've seen him in action, and he does a sterling performance, and he's very dedicated. And so I'd like to make the motion to adopt the resolution for the nomination of Rick Lohman, a special district representative to LAFCO.
I second that with agreement, and congratulations, Jim. Excellent use of the word sterling.
Good. Discussion, roll call vote, please.
Okay. Director Boyd,
Aye.
Director Decker,
Aye.
Director Harvey,
Aye.
Director Lohman,
Yes.
Director Slater Carter.
Yes. Motion carries unanimously, and we are done with new business and moving on to the exciting
Catherine?
reports.
I just want to throw out one interesting comment. Like I didn't recuse myself in this. When I'm serving on LAFCO, I am directed by LAFCO and the special districts to vote to represent all special districts. What that means is if they're discussing something like Harbor District or mergers or anything like that, that I am very close to, I am not required to ever recuse myself from any discussions or voting. So literally, if they're voting on our district doing something or the co-side, it's perfectly legal for me to vote on, every single time. So.
Great.
And I have also a brief comment, just a correction, Rick. It looks to me like this year is the first year where they don't make you be present at the meeting to vote, but it's a pure electronic mail ballot. So
Okay.
if everybody agrees, I'm gonna they're actually asking that we send them this form and agree to the electronic mail ballot, and I'm just gonna do it.
I still have to go
Yes.
campaign though. So.
Right. Via Zoom, I'm sure. And letters.
And money.
Moving on, money. Moving on, report, Sewer Authority Mid-Coast Side meetings. Our last meeting was, let me look quickly. Oh, I lost it. Monday, June 22nd. And we approved the budgets. Started working, we have been working on the general manager's performance evaluation, so that was presented to the board. And we approved a contract with Calcon Systems for the routine electrical maintenance. That was about the most exciting thing. I will say to Pippin's comment about people bidding during time of COVID, it was interesting that at the pressure from Half Moon Bay, the Granada holding tank system bid was allowed to run out, and it was rebid, and it came in slightly higher than either of the previous two bids. And I think the reputation of some of the members of the agency can cause problems. At our July 27th meeting, we are going to have a report on the high-powered pump station for the Portola pump station, answering questions submitted by the board members, and also evaluating the two projects. So I would recommend people watch it, and if anybody has any questions, please send them to Keishan. I know I have sent questions, Rick sent questions, Barbara Dye sent questions. My biggest concern is that I think by putting in those bigger pumps, it has all the potential to be growth inducing. And I guess I'm going to have to ask, I didn't include that in my question, so we're going to have to, I will send that to Keishan as well.
Catherine, I included that in mine.
Oh, you did? Okay, good.
If our current capacity is X because of the way the flows work, and then you move to a high pressure system, they all said, well, that increases the capacity up to the max. So my thought is, and I want to investigate this, is that you have therefore increased the capacity of the plant, because it can only get so much under its current flow. And if you add the high pressure, then it's 25% pure. And that means you could have 25% more development. So,
right. And the gist of my question, Scott, was, can the plant handle the additional flow? And what's it going to cost to get the plant up to being able to handle the flow when it is needed? Scott.
I'm just going to say the obvious thing. I've said it many times before, but the actions to try to drive to bigger development possibilities is paired very clearly and unambiguously with wasteful spending. And we have a project which is about as simple and inexpensive to build and to operate. We already have one in the ground. It's proven to be inexpensive, quick to build, and easy to operate, and it works. We just want to make it bigger. And what they're doing is delaying. They are running directly up against the consent decree with the Regional Water Quality Control Board, which is not an agency to be trifled with, but they're trifling with it. By delaying, they're increasing costs, even if we choose the most obvious project. And they're trying to somehow convince us that in this time of dire financial straits for people all through our community, they want to go waste more money, and they want to put it off, delaying it, and almost certainly running into a Coastal Commission challenge on the growth-inducing aspects, and potentially the environmental impacts, because there's no way to do this without drilling and crossing riparian corridors. We have litigated this at the SAM board for years. They're stalling, they're pushing for more development, and they're blowing large sums of money, and they are working directly against the interests that SAM and each member agency is sworn to uphold. And that's protecting the environment and the people who live here. It's a health and safety issue. They're dragging it out, they're wasting money, and they clearly have some other objective, which has nothing to do with the core mission that each agency is sworn to uphold.
Scott, I'd like to, that's a great comment. I'd like to, based on your comment, Scott, I'd like our two representatives to make the point at the meeting that the wet weather project and versus the larger pumps are comparing apples and oranges. And I think that the apple is the wet weather project, allowing, and then the orange is the pumps. And I think they're just not comparable. And at that point, should be made at the meeting coming up, based on Scott's comments.
Well, it will be interesting, and I find it interesting that Half Moon Bay sued Sam and Granada and Montara over money, and they're throwing it away.
Right.
Any more comments on that? Okay, moving on to Midcoast Community Council. I haven't been following that recently. You can follow it online at the Midcoast Council excellent website. CSDA report, Rick Lohman.
No meetings. I've tried to get them to do a Zoom meeting. I'll try again. We haven't had any meetings. No, the Special Districts Association.
Yeah, no, and the next report is LAFCO.
I think I reported on that at the last meeting, which was just, yeah, it's fine.
Okay, attorney's report.
No report.
Director's reports. General manager's report is attached. Future agendas is attached, and let's recess and reconvene in closed session in about 3 minutes. It's 8:49, so.
Can we make that 3.5?
How about 5, Jim?
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna get off. Thank you, guys. Nice to see you all.
Thank you.
Okay.
Have a happy 4th at home.
Bye.
Okay, thank you.
Tracy, bye, Alex.